begin with a seated meditation. Noticing our body, feeling the points of contact, our feet with the floor, weight on the chair, our hands. Just sitting here. Noticing each in and out breath. Letting go of all the thoughts and memories and worries of the day. They come and they go, we can let them go and just come back to the breath. Just being here. Maybe say to ourselves very gently, rising, falling, each breath. And when something else captures our attention, a thought or a sound, for instance, we note it. Oh, that is what I'm paying attention to right now. We name it. Oh, thinking. And we can let that go, come back to the breath. Here we are in week 6 out of 8. I hope you all have been able to sort of keep up. If you missed classes, hopefully you can watch them. Good. And we're about finished with the book, so that's good. We've got some good stuff coming up, and tonight is kind of a fun one, I think. It's a little bit different. But before we do that, let's hear from you about your meditation practice in the past week.
It's getting better, trying to focus more, and when those negative thoughts come, pulling in the positive.
Good.
I put some soft music with it this week, so that was fun, you know, and it kind of helped stay, clear, like I liked it, so it's good. I have found myself being able to be in the moment when I'm doing something, not like making a meal or something in the kitchen. There I am, and stuff, thinking, okay, now you're just gonna think about this, you're not gonna think about the 2 other things you wanna get done yet, we're just gonna, think about that. Same thing on our vacation. I really just sat in the car sometimes and just looked out the window and just seen it, go by, and it was very, relaxing. And I do like walking meditation. I'm an avid walker, and I do like that a lot. So that kind of, it still lets me move, but yet I'm paying attention to my walking. And then when the bird chirps, I hear that, and then I bring myself back again, or, so, yeah.
Good. It sounds like you're to that point where sometimes you're aware that you're aware.
Yes.
Aware of awareness.
Yes.
Right?
I'm aware that I'm not where I'm supposed to be.
Good.
I've not done real good this week as far as sitting, but I've been out walking and been paying more attention to, like she said, my steps. And, well, when you're walking down Main Street, of course, it's a lot of vehicles and stuff, so it's, when you get off the beaten path, or the noisy path, like going down the, Riverwalk, that's one of my favorite places.
I had a busy week. I didn't do as much as I would like either, but I do walk and I do feel like I'm noticing stuff more. I think I actually feel a little more relaxed and I actually slept a couple nights and I don't know if it's related, but felt good.
Good. I had several times again this past week where I was not mindful. I noticed I was really reactive. I was really saying things that I should have left, you know? And so I think I'm learning from that. And, you know, I apologized. I said, you know, I didn't need to say all that. I think that learning, and that's what we're going to work on tonight, is mindful speaking and mindful listening, which is an important skill. There's a handout I'm going to give you right now that talks about this, that we'll go through, and then we're going to do kind of a fun little practice working on this. This is from an excellent book by Tara Brach, Radical Acceptance, which I kind of shortened it from the pages in there. So we're going to be doing both mindful listening and mindful speaking tonight. So the first paragraph says, set your intention. And I think this is really good. That I like that phrase, set your intention. Like say, I'm going to be mindful. Just saying that to yourself, okay? Establish your intention to be present, honest, and kind in relating to others. In any circumstance, but I would say in this circumstance. So you decide you're going to do that. This includes resolving not to say anything untrue or hurtful to anyone. So that brings up gossip. Now, gossip is important. We want to find out about how people are doing, and it's important to share stuff. You know, it's a good principle to not say anything that you don't know is true. So to say, I heard this, it's a little bit fishy, you know? But certainly, to notice if it's kind of a snide comment about somebody, if it's a little hurtful, it's better not to say it. Let your body be an anchor. So we can always, when we're trying to be mindful, it is very helpful to come back into our body now and then, to notice the breath, to notice our posture, to notice if we're very tight. Choose 2 or 3 touch points, places in your body where you can reawaken a sense of presence. These might be the sensations of breathing, the sensations in your shoulder, hands, stomach, or feet. Return to them as often as possible when you're communicating with others. So I think this is particularly helpful if you're going into a setting that's a little stressful. A meeting or a family gathering. It's kind of good to say, oh, I'm going to really work on just being real for this time and coming back into my body. The next paragraph is about listening. Listen from the heart. let go of your agenda for the conversation. So we usually have an agenda, and that's, not that that's bad, but if we really wanna listen to somebody, it's better if we kind of open our hearts to what they're gonna say, rather than to say, oh, I wanna get this done. Be aware of your mind wandering off into judgments, which we tend to do. It doesn't say don't judge, it says be aware of it. It's gonna happen. If you find yourself criticizing, analyzing, or interpreting, meet these thoughts with mindfulness. Let them go and return to receptive listening. Pay attention to the person's tone, pitch, volume, and words, allowing yourself to receive the mood and spirit of what another is expressing. It's more than just the words. So, you know, it's a good idea when, if you can, now, there's all different situations, of course. If you can say, I'm just going to listen to this person and I'm not going to interrupt them, I'm going to just set this time to whatever they're going to say. And if they stop, maybe that's okay. Then speaking from the heart. Try not to rehearse what you will say in advance. We do that, but if we can be spontaneous, it'll be more real. Rather, in the present moment, speak what feels true and meaningful. Let what you say arise from your immediate stream of experience. Begin with inward listening. Listen to yourself, right? Speak slowly enough to stay mindfully connected with your body and heart. Pause, relax, and attend. I think this is really helpful, if you can. During your interaction, pause repeatedly. It's really valuable if you can. Now, you may want to, if it's just two of you, let's say, you may want to say, we've got something serious to talk about. If there's a pause in here now and then, that's okay, so you both know. Because that can feel awkward. Pause briefly before and after you speak. Pause or speaking to reconnect with your body and feelings. Pause when another is done speaking, giving some space for what they have said to settle. Practice radical acceptance, and this is about forgiveness, because you're not going to do all these things. Forgive yourself and others again and again for forgetting our intention, forgetting to connect with our body, forgetting to listen without thinking, forgetting not to rehearse. So this is a little activity that I think I read about somewhere, but I've kind of altered it, in which I'm going to have you sit in pairs and tell a story. One person is going to practice mindful speaking, and the other person is going to practice mindful listening, and then we'll switch roles. So since there's 5 of you, I will be participating. So for this, we will sit side by side. So I'm going to go over this one. Like this. We're side by side, facing away. Okay? Good. And you can put your papers down. And I'm going to ask you to tell a little story that's about 2 to 3 minutes. And the topic is, speak about a family member or acquaintance with whom you have a problem. Okay?
Oh, jeez.
We only have 2 or 3 minutes?
That's right.
It's too funny.
Ah, let's see what.
So the people, okay, let's say I'll speak first, you can speak first, and you can speak first, all right? And so the speakers, so that's what I am asking you to talk about, all right? So When you're speaking, notice these things. Notice when you're rehearsing. Notice when you're figuring out what you're gonna say next. Just notice it. Try to connect with your body. Speak slowly. Speak true, meaningful things. Pause. Take your time, okay? 2 minutes doesn't seem like much, but it'll be plenty of time. I will give you more than 2 minutes if you need 2 minutes, okay? So it's not so important what you're saying, okay? These stories are not important.
Yes.
They don't even have to be true, okay?
Make something up.
It's just an exercise in learning to speak mindfully and listen mindfully. So the speaking, not too hard, the listening is the real challenge. So listeners, notice when you're judging, okay? Like, I wouldn't have done it that way. You might just notice that. Notice, especially with this, you might have ideas about how to fix this issue, this person, okay? Notice that. Notice how you might be comparing what they're talking about to what's happening in your life. So notice that. That's one thing we tend to do. I'm not saying it's bad. Notice it. And this is probably the big one. We're always going to be thinking about how we're going to respond. Right? What we're going to say back to them. And for this exercise, you don't say anything back to them. You're just listening. Okay? It's very hard. A lot of people can't do it. They can't respond. They have to respond. And then after that, we'll switch roles and then we'll talk about what our experience was. Okay?
No rehearsing.
The speakers, do you have your person picked out? Okay? And
We don't tell who the person is.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna ask you to keep the stories confidential. Yeah, just in case there's something personal there.
Oh my God.
So I'm speaking first, right?
Yes.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
He doesn't even know what he's gonna talk about.
Gino says, well, I'll change my chair around again so you can speak second.
I want to see how this works, so.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
I dislike dealing with politics, religion,
Couldn't wait for the kid.
things like that.
Now that we're retired, he does spend like
People,
this winter,
they
especially.
will watch one side of things on TV.
It could,
Think that it's
he needed to get out, I needed him to
But
go and
then
have a day to myself, so, you know, so I
it
have
turns
to
to the
myself.
other side,
So, but,
and
but in the
then
morning,
that is
before he
all.
left again, I have to pay
Don't
him.
believe a word
He
of it.
lost his phone back in
Last time I said.
And I have a hard
So that
time
meant all communication, no matter.
listening to that because my feeling is
But that's hard.
that this
Came to
side
my phone,
or this side,
It's not nasty.
that's the number it goes.
you know,
Taxes,
it just
you know, where to find your taxes done, and then there's
because
a call.
my view might be the same feeling as his, but I tend to look at it more rational and
And,
believe that
let's go.
both
Go buy
sides,
another new phone.
you have to be very careful
You know, I think we'll go into the trap.
what you're believing or what you're seeing,
So if we,
and maybe go on your own
and I want you to tell me
and do the,
your telephone number, make sure that you get your theirs, because I don't know if he ever, you actually put his brother's phone. His off.
I'm not
But that
supposed
was
to
when
watch
he
others, I think,
Because it just.
and I'm doing that, aren't I?
And I said,
Oh, you're
Well-
not supposed to talk.
I need you to do this today, because you're in the car all together,
Um,
right? drive a lot.
And, you know, I think it happens
I'm
the
hoping
same
that-
way
That's my expectation. I
on the
don't
religion
know.
end of things.
But,
That was an.
I
One
actually
person might be a little
concerned just because
One person might be
Time was
happy.
limited for.
this
And
right there, I called my sister
our-
and talked way too long. on
The
phone and
viewpoints
stuff,
of
but-
one
But I,
so
I did it.
wrong
you know, like I had freedom of speech
and the other one
really,
so
really,
right.
Was trying to.
really
And I
needed
think
that.
that
And
all
I,
these
you know,
things
some sort
are
of guilty with the idea.
Yeah.
But
things that we
I
really
really
have to look at
just,
and think about as far as the religions go.
nothing right here, I just did a source and all
They all
things.
have the same God.
Just listening to.
Anyway,
things
that's
was
my story.
valuable.
Some people
But-
believe in doing one thing and some
Oh, I
people
don't know.
think it's
My
okay to
sister
do
said
something
that was
else.
good. Guess runs over in Tennessee and, San Diego
I think that we should all be able to
this year.
work together.
For a sister petition. That's my story for today.
Just a minute.
Are you
Okay,
guys
let's
still
just
live?
pause a minute. We'll just pause and think about your experience with speaking and listening. We're gonna talk about it after this. Now we can switch roles. The speaker becomes a listener and the listener becomes a speaker. So remember again, speakers, try to speak spontaneously from the heart, say true things, pause, connect with your body now and then. Listeners, notice when you're judging, when you're comparing the experience to your own, when you're thinking about how you're gonna respond, how you might try to remark on this person that they're talking about, and just be aware of that. And it might be an exercise like the breath, where you notice this thought, and then you have to say, oh, I'm thinking that, and just come back to just listening to the words, and notice what the person is saying and how they're saying it.
I have a sister-in-law that I had asked quiet day.
I feel very
I sometimes her
And
jump to
husband,
conclusions when I talk to someone.
she's married to
There leads them to talk all the way, and I jump in and took away from them. So my husband says, don't even start that, just listen to me, don't say anything, just
my
listen.
sister was
And
one of those people
I can tell, I
and
do
and
need
loves
to
to
listen and not jump to the conclusions.
really, you know, when you.
Sometimes he'd say too, you sound just like your mother. And
So.
I think, oh, that was the one person I never wanted to be compared to,
She.
but
she
then since the
definitely
mother
has,
and daughter, I'm just like my mother. And those are good things and bad things.
She's done a lot of things before me because she's a couple years older, so
I'm trying to say,
every time I was going to.
the next night too,
Something
I'll have
new.
to pick my husband up. But he called
She
me
kind
like 1 o'clock today and said,
That she does this and
I'll be
this,
coming
and I
home
really,
tonight.
you know,
And I'm
it's
like,
kind
really,
of
what time?
took away my
And he's like,
chance.
you just have to wait till I call you first. Can you give me an idea? Are you talking 6 o'clock tonight, 10 o'clock?
I feel like she doesn't
And so I get myself worked up. And all I need to do is just listen and be
So I
patient
really
and get the tell me.
I wanna be
So
sympathetic
yeah,
and
I have to
empathetic.
stop and I take that pause.
I don't know.
But she makes it hard.
There's
Her
no way.
kids
That's
are
the
the
best.
best.
Of course, here I am.
Sure,
The
that's
busiest part
Can't
of
do
the
that,
day.
they to mine.
I jumping to conclusions.
I don't
I
know.
think it took, and I visit with my neighbor, even her sister, she always says,
She tried to
watch you
to
when I need
I
your
try
help.
to be nice.
She's like, so today, I'm gonna find you, I need your help. but I also wanted to just talk with her. And so I thought that was very nice.
You know,
I bet her around the bed over and over again.
it wasn't so
And
my
I can see her on this right for my house. And it was just interesting listening to different situations that she goes through them. But now they find disappointing because her husband had some medical issues, so I was doing just helping,
She always wants
watching their dog.
I don't really.
And so that was what you
you know,
to
bring the best thing.
can remind your dog
I feel something really bad for her.
And I'm like,
She'll
sure.
be great and
So
so
I'm thinking,
maybe she really does.
I always find joy
she just
in
can't up and go somewhere,
Say,
just like
saying yes to someone. And that
she's a
does
good
bring a
person.
smile to my face.
So they're straight, you know, they don't see the
hard
grandkids.
sometimes, and
I think I'm talking.
It's just one of these bizarre things.
I could go to
He
a
has
whole
her so
another story with my sister, but that's again works.
Whatever you want.
So I'm better not bringing up
So
family.
I-
Um,
this has been many
Yeah.
years.
my husband is enough to worry about. That was a long 2 minutes.
Are you sure that was 2 minutes?
I really wasn't timing it. I
It's
wasn't
hard
timing
not
it.
to see.
We can get back in our
It I know
circle.
what you're going through.
Not enough time to tell the story.
Well, now you know. Now you know the story.
Oh my goodness. How crazy.
So let's talk first about our experience in trying to speak mindfully. What did you notice?
I forget everything I was going, what I'm supposed to be thinking of with mindfulness. I just go back to my inner feelings.
Okay, good.
I found that as I was telling my incident or my story, whatever you wanna call it, I was getting more upset by the minute. Cause it's a situation where you wanna help the person, but there's nothing you can do.
Mhm,
So I was finding myself getting really perturbed.
mhm.
Yeah.
It's good that you noticed that.
Now, I did notice that, I was getting
Did you
more,
do something about it?
well,
Did you stop and breathe?
I should have, I didn't do that, I didn't pause.
Yeah.
That's,
I
you
think
know,
that's a key skill.
yeah, that's a key skill, huh? And that's what most people don't do, they just
Because
keep,
you reset
rattling.
your
That's right.
mind.
okay,
Yeah.
So I would think that was.
yeah.
yes, I could tell I was getting upset too.
Uh-huh. It's kind of an interesting topic to talk about a difficult person.
Mhm.
Did you connect with your body? Did you, you felt like there was a lot to say, so you didn't hardly have time to stop and pause and, but I did, because I didn't have that much to say, so I noticed I could stop, breathe, just let it come. That's kind of interesting to do that. So the more important part of it is the listening. So how many of us noticed that the story we were hearing is a lot like something we've experienced, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And it's interesting just to notice that. And one thing that's kind of cool about that is we notice that everybody has these problems, you know? It's not just us. So that's kind of comforting. Did you notice judgment of the person that was speaking or judgment of the person they were talking about?
Right.
Well, just tell me what your experiences were with trying to listen mindfully.
I had a hard time not commenting.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
because
Oh, yeah.
because I wanted to kind of like jump in and say, well, I totally agree with you.
yeah, that's right.
I know where you're coming from. I feel the same way. Absolutely, you're right.
I know, I wanted to say I have a sister-in-law just like that. Cause I do.
Yeah,
Well, I kind of overheard you when you started. I have a sister-in-law, and I started mine with my sister-in-law too.
how many of you were talking about their sister-in-law? Wow,
Today. But I think in listening,
Mm.
probably the hardest part was trying not to be judgmental to
The situation, yeah.
Yeah, not either to give support nor a different view, you know, of
Right.
the situation itself.
Mm.
So of course, when we are in normal conversation, we should acknowledge somehow to the person that we're listening, right? So saying, eye contact, that's important. And for this exercise, I asked you not to say anything, but it's really hard. But, you know, in normal conversation, we should somehow acknowledge that we're listening. But not interrupting and just listening is quite a interesting thing to try.
Especially if you're supposed to, the storyteller is supposed to stop for a couple
Right.
seconds,
Yeah,
and you think you
It's
need
just
to.
a natural.
It's a natural to fill that
Yeah.
void. You
yeah.
know, that there's
It
no
is.
that there's no silence.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
conversation, it's,
That
I
is
feel
true.
like that too. I get nervous if there's a
Face
lull in the
off.
gut. I think, oh, what am I gonna say? I mean it, and it's,
Yes.
Mhm.
Awkward silence. And, you know, if we can get used to that, oh, it's quiet. I don't really need to say anything if there's nothing to say. That's interesting. That's really interesting if you can notice that, I think.
About silence. I was at a funeral once, and the man who was speaking was talking about the person who had passed away and his relationship with his wife and stuff. And he made the comment. He said, and even though they sat quietly and didn't converse, they knew that they loved each other.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, that's awesome to think that, you know?
Yeah.
Because many times my husband and I, he'll be sitting in the recliner, I'll be sitting in my recliner, and the night will go along and we won't say 10 words to each other, you know? And that always comes back to me realizing it's okay that we aren't talking. We are here together.
Yeah.
That's all that matters, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, that's off the track, but
No, I was gonna comment on that too. The song that Jan and I had for our wedding when we were lighting a candle is a song that says, I love you best when you say nothing at all.
oh,
Alison Krauss.
okay.
I think probably the only silence that would be uncomfortable though is if it isn't uncomfortable silence, like if there is a disagreement going on or something, then it's hard.
Yeah.
That would, you know,
Yeah.
to stay silent,
Uh-huh.
even to be, you know, that silent listener, something like
If there's tension in the room.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and you
Yeah.
sense that.
Mhm.
yeah,
You
then
know.
it's,
So it's really good if possible, when we notice that tension, that we take the time to notice it and make a good decision about what we're gonna say, not just blurt something out. If we can. One thing I noticed in talking about these difficult persons, how many of you, became a little bit sympathetic toward this person who was a troublemaker, okay? That, maybe something in their life is why they're that way. I think that's an interesting, thing to reflect on.
Tonight I didn't feel that way, sympathetic toward.
No?
I didn't either.
Okay, well.
I'm trying to, especially with this class now, I think maybe we behave a certain way because of, what's gone on before, in our lives.
Right,
Yes,
right.
I mean, like we all have a history sitting
Yeah.
there.
We do.
that's right,
Yeah.
yeah. And we can change our history.
Yeah.
Not what happened, but going forward.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
going forward, we can change it.
Yeah, that's right. Here's another handout that is about just what we did. It's about listening. And it's just kind of going through what we talked about. You can read that at your leisure. Somehow, when my copier person did it, they put the same thing on front and back, so. Not complaining, I'm happy that they do this for me. So in the coming week, I've got 3 different things that I'd like you to do. One is experiment a little bit more with this mindful speaking, mindful listening. When you're with somebody, set an intention when you start that you're going to do this, that you're going to speak honestly and slowly and pause, and that when you're listening, you're gonna pay close attention and notice when you're figuring out what you're gonna say to them. I'm not saying don't, but be aware of it if you can. So set an intention to be a good listener and a good speaker. Periodically, it's like when you're making a meal, you said to yourself, oh, I'm gonna pay attention. So just saying that to yourself is a big step, I think. The second thing I'd like you to do is, we've got 2 classes left. So think about what you're going to do after the class is over, okay? So for some people, you might say, well, it was an interesting class, but I'm not ready to meditate every day myself right now. Maybe I will someday, and that's okay, because people are not always ready. But if you are, kind of set up a plan, and we'll talk more about that in the next couple of weeks about what to do going forward. But just kind of start to think about that, and maybe say what would help you if you want to have a mindfulness practice. What would help you along that way? The third thing is your reading assignment. So if you haven't finished the book, do that. And this handout is about what we're going to be talking about in the next 2 weeks. There's 3 pages. It's about responding to emotional or physical pain. So this will be, I think, a challenge. That's why I added these 2 weeks on. I usually do this in 6 weeks, so I found this information really profound. So read that. Here's the second page. Good. And there's a very short third page yet too, I think.
This is personal pain, physical pain we're talking about, not someone else's.
Yeah.
Right.
Your own. Anything else you wanna talk about before we have a closing meditation? If you wanna stay after to talk, kind of a short session today. I think the weather's okay so far.
I was gonna share, I do a lot of webinars on, health and wellness. And this one came up called Mental Health and Wellbeing, globalsummit.com, and Sharon Salzberg is gonna be one of their speakers.
Uh-huh.
So I felt really good. I only do the free webinars, and anyway, I don't know if you can go, like, I just get these, how you get the feeds in your mailbox and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're interested in the one, cause it just said mental health and wellbeing globalsummit.com. And it's free online April 11th to the 17th, so that's the time of our last class, but she's gonna be one of the speakers there. So I felt pretty good that I recognized that, and I signed it down, So if anybody wants this, you can copy it down,
Thank you.
and it'll be good, but I was happy about having,
Yeah.
knowing somebody and listening to all the other speakers too.
Good.
I started, on vacation, I started rereading that book, You Are Where You Are. It was in our first sheet that
Uh-huh.
first night, and I
It's
said,
by
oh, I
Doug
read that.
Kabat-Zinn.
Yes, I think
Wherever
so.
you are, wherever you, yeah,
Wherever you go, that's
you
where
are.
you,
That's where
that's
you
where you
are.
are.
Yeah.
That's it, yes.
Uh-huh.
We have the book here in the library, I brought it back.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't read it all through and stuff, but that is really a good simplified book
Yeah,
of everything that we've learned,
Mhm.
that we learned thus far, and stuff. I did enjoy rereading some of it, so the book is here if you want to check it out.
yes, I highly recommend it. I've been going to some yoga classes. Some of you do yoga, and I'm really finding that's making me more aware of my body. Allowing me to slow down. So I'm enjoying that lately.
I think that helps with the breathing,
Yeah,
makes you focus.
so there's a lot of different tools. What we're doing is one, and there's lots of other ones. Take advantage of them. We'll do a little sitting meditation. Just sitting, feeling our body. Noticing the sounds around us. You notice the sound of our breathing. Notice the sensation of our breathing. Where do we feel that expansion and contraction? Periodically touching base with our body, noticing touch points. Maybe taking a moment to notice how we feel emotionally right now. Calm or agitated or mind racing or wondering. Always coming back to the breath. That's our anchor. Noticing each breath. Thanks for your practice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are your other classes going with the other places?
Yeah, I'm really pleased. Yeah.
Okay.
People are faithful. I appreciate that. If they miss a class, they watch it. Thanks to the library for putting these on YouTube. It's a great service. And great insights I'm hearing from people. So people are learning, and I'm learning.
Never too old to learn, are we?
That's right.
My mom said that. She said, I learn something new every day. And I used to think, really, Mom?
Yeah.
She was a smart lady. In her own way, I lost her too young.
My mindful moment next week is about that. If you just see that on Facebook, I don't know how many of you see that. So if you look up my name on Facebook, you'll find it, or if you go to mindfulness group of Chilton area, you'll find it. And every week I do a post every Monday. And next week, so I write them ahead of time. If I think of something, I write it down. So it's about there's no age limit on personal development. We can keep learning.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn.
Yes, there is, yes. And everything changes so fast. You just have it learned and then you gotta learn it all over because it's different. So,
I don't like change.
well, I don't think anybody really does. Yeah, it's hard. And the older you get, the harder it is. I know. I have some brothers and sisters that didn't change with the times. You know, they wanted to stay the way it was, you know, in the 60s and the 70s and their attitude now is not that healthy.
Okay.
You know, I think you have to, well, broaden your horizons, you know, trying to see things the way things are now. You know, as bad as what all happens in the world, I remember my mom saying when I was a teenager, I just don't know what's gonna happen to this world yet. She says, this is just, you know, she thought it was bad then. You know, when I was a teenager, I thought, well, it ain't that bad. But now, I'm, you know, the same age she was when she was saying it. And that's how I feel because I see the world, I see our grandchildren having to deal with the world, the way it is now. But yet, they're living in the world and they will deal with it, I guess, you
Yeah.
know. I,
They don't know any different.
yes, yeah, yeah. So.
Good.
I just hope there's a world for them to live in. I mean, you know. So, well,
How's your grandson?
I got to see him
Aw.
Tuesday. Hold him, I didn't bring my phone with me, so I can't show you the picture. He's healthy, he's still on oxygen at home, which is kind of weird, but doing okay
how
with
did
it.
they do that?
They've got, you know, just like
Like
an
even-
adult with a concentrator, with a tube and a
Mhm.
monitor, so they're kind of stuck at home. They've got a tank if they have to go to the doctor's office, but otherwise, well, you know, they're not gonna go outside in this weather anyway. Right
Right.
now, he's just 2 weeks old, but, it's kind of weird, but he's doing okay with it,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, he's over 10 pounds.
Oh,
Very,
wow.
oh, that's good.
So they think he probably just needs to be weaned off of it.
Yeah, they have to wait to see the pulmonologist in a few weeks. He's only, you know, like usually if you're on oxygen at the hospital or at home, you're on like 2 liters is about the lowest.
Mhm.
He's on 1/8 of a liter.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.